Welcome to Lunch with the Lord. I'm Pastor Mark. We're in 1 Samuel chapter 8. We're going to be starting in verse 19 this lesson. We're going to be finishing actually chapter 8 this lesson. But before we begin, Jeremiah 15:16. Thy words were found, and I did eat them, and thy word was unto me the joy and the rejoicing of my heart. Now, God instructs Samuel to describe what having an earthly king would be like. And the government that is set up is going to be doing a lot of taking and maybe not a lot of giving. So here, God kind of warns them. He's giving them an opportunity to say, you know what, we think twice about this, and now we'd rather have God as our king. He's giving them an opportunity to change their mind. But let's see what happens here in verse 19. After Samuel describes what an earthly king is like, what is their response? Now, verse 19 says, nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, no, but we will have a king over us, that we also may be like all the nations, and that our king may judge us and go out before us and fight our battles. Now, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make that horse drink. And God, through Samuel, was warning the children of Israel what it would be like to have an earthly king reigning over them, as opposed to having God himself reigning over them. They already knew God's faithfulness to them and how God had protected them also. But the people were bent on having a king. But it is to be noted that God honored their choice. God has given people a free will, and he tries to warn us against going in the wrong direction. But ultimately, God lets us use our own free will. God doesn't force his will upon people. He lets us, he presents things to us, and then he allows us to make the choice. Because what? The first gift that God ever gave to human beings, to Adam, was what? Free will, to choose. So, now, here the children of Israel heard Samuel's words, and they made their own decision. Either they didn't care about what Samuel had just said in describing an earthly king, or they may have thought that he was trying to make it look bad so that they would stay with God as their king. Stubbornness is one of the negative effects of sin. It stems from pride, and it promotes self-will. But there is a good kind of stubbornness. It is based in humility, with a conviction of the heart deep in God and in his word. It's okay to be stubborn if you're stubborn for the things of God, and you're stubborn for God's word and his truth and his honor and righteousness. But outside of that stubbornness, that's just coming from the sinful nature, from our own pride and self-will. To be stubborn, to do our own selfish desire, is bad. But to be stubborn and not to be moved from prayer, or not to be moved from God's word, or from going to church, or from going to the Bible study, this is a good kind of stubborn. If you're going to be stubborn, be stubborn for the things of God. Be stubborn for righteousness and holiness. Be stubborn for for being faithful to God and to church. In verses 19 and 20, which we just read, it pictures a bad kind of stubbornness, which was not willing to receive God's counsel and to be spared from generations of heartache. When faced with a decision, always seek godly counsel and go with the advice that is closest to the heart of God. You know, here, if they would have just listened to God and chose Him, they could have saved themselves hundreds and hundreds of years of heartache through having earthly kings. But they didn't. They didn't. They were stubborn, and they wanted a king. They wanted what they wanted, and because of that, they basically reaped what they sowed. They had a few good earthly kings, but most of them were bad. And it's the same way with us. When we have a decision to make, especially a spiritual decision to make, we should always seek counsel and go with the counsel that is closest to the heart, that's going to draw us to God's heart. It's going to lead us to His word and to His heart. Let us read verses 21 and 22, and it says here, "And Samuel heard all the words of the people, and he rehearsed them in the ears of the Lord. And the Lord said to Samuel, Hearken unto their voice, and make them a king. And then Samuel said unto the men of Israel, Go ye every man unto his city." Now, in verse 21, Samuel does what every Christian should do. When we hear complaints or negativity or even rejection, we should take it to God only in prayer. We shouldn't go around the church and start calling people on the phone and going online and telling everybody that what's going on, the negative stuff. No, he took it to God in prayer only. Many times we're tempted to share negative information with others, and it's only after a full day's work of sharing it with other people that we then take it to God at the end of the day. And that's usually what happens, because when we hear negativity or rejection, we usually want, our sinful nature wants us to just start spreading it around. Doesn't want us to go to God and pray and seek His counsel. No, we spread it around, and then at the end of the day you can tell God about it. No one else needs to know until you take it to God first. And only then be discerning who you tell. Do you really need to know what they said? Or am I just gossiping? Do these people really need to know what this person said, or the negativity or the rejection do they need to know that? Or am I just gossiping? Am I just venting my anger, my frustration? Now in verse 22, for the third time now, we see the words, hearken unto their voice. God tells Samuel for the third time, listen to what they're saying. Although Samuel didn't want to, yet if God said to do it, then he would reluctantly go along with what they said, because God told him to do it. God has given His people a choice, and God has even foretold them what was going to happen. But God did let them make their own decision. God presented them both sides of the story, and basically they made their decision. God let them make their decision. It's hard for parents to see their children make bad decisions, even after warning them and explaining to them, if you do this, then this is what's going to happen, or at least pretty much 99%, this is the road you're going to go down. But if you make this choice, then this is what will happen. And it's difficult when we see our children or someone we know, a friend, make what we consider a bad decision, to go in the wrong direction. But sometimes in people's lives, they have to learn by experience. Parents aren't perfect, and parents don't know everything, but they are given to children. They are given so that children will have a guide in their early years on how to live their lives in this world. Again, parents aren't perfect, but parents have experience, and we can guide our children in how they should go. But some people, they just have to they just have to touch the stove and see if it really is hot. Samuel tells them to go home until they hear from him again. The choice of the king must not be done in a hurry. God will be sure to bring someone forward to be anointed to this new position. So Samuel's saying, this isn't going to be a rush thing. You want me to make you king? I'm going to go home. I'm going to pray. You go on home and just wait. I'll contact you when God gives me the signal. When God lets me know, I'll let you know. But I'm not going to be rushed. And that was a good decision by Samuel to send them home. Let this be a lesson to us. When important decisions need to be made, go to a place of rest and wait on God for the answer. Often we make a quick decision because of the excited feelings that we have, and it turns out bad. Not always, but most cases, it would be better to wait upon God in prayer and praise also until we get clear direction. Again, we need to spend time with God in prayer, especially on important decisions that we make. And so many times we're tempted in our human nature, our fallen nature, to want to make our own decisions. That independence that's within us, that sinful nature that wants to be independent of God, whispers in your ear, just like Satan whispered in Eve's ear, make your own decision. I know God said this, but you should make your own decision. And you know what? We still hear it today. Make your own decision. Don't go to God. You have enough. You have enough of the Bible in you. You've been counseled many times in your life. You know what? You can make this decision on your own. You can tell God that you'll handle this one, right? That's what we hear. Oh yeah. That's what our sinful nature whispers to us. Wants us to make our own decision instead of going to God in prayer and praising Him and waiting for His answer. All right, we're going to continue on in chapter 9 of 1 Samuel. But until then, walk with the Lord. I know He walks with you.